So here's how the formula works. If you learn nothing else tonight, you got to learn this. There's three parts of the formula. One part is the cost of college. And as you see on the overhead, it's the cost of attendance. If you ask Stanford, what's the tuition here? They'd say, oh, it's about $39,000. Wow, I thought it was more than that. So your kid applies to Stanford, gets into Stanford, you get your first bill, you multiply by 2, and it comes out to about $60,000. And you say, what's going on here, bait and switch? No, he didn't ask the right question. Tuition's only part of the cost of college. If you want to know what college costs, ask this question. What's the cost of attendance, the COA, or what is the student budget? Typically, colleges have 4 costs of attendance figures that they know. Student living on campus, a student living off campus, a student living with relatives, and a student living at home. All have separate COAs. There are 3 kind of generic COAs. One is for a public college, kind of a national thing, anywhere from about $8,000 in some states all the way up to $34,000, $35,000 at Berkeley. Whoever thought in this crowd Berkeley cost that much? That's a public college. Then there's the private colleges. Nationally, they go anywhere from about $8,000 or $9,000 all the way up to about $50,000. And then the elite college is elite in terms of cost, not necessarily quality, $55,000 and up. And there's probably, last time I checked, there's about 70 colleges in the country where the cost of attendance is over $60,000. If you break that down on a per diem cost, it costs more to go to one of those colleges than it does to go to a really good resort, and the food's not nearly as good. So, that's the bottom line, but maybe there's some ways to deal with that bottom line. Let me show you something. Let's suppose that we're talking about a family that has makes about $60,000, $65,000 a year, maybe has $100,000 in the bank, and the student has applied to a state school. So the kid fills out a financial aid form, the family fills out a financial. By the way, while I'm thinking of it, if you read the FAFSA and you read the questions in the FAFSA, this federal formula, the federal form, it sounds like the kid is supposed to be filling this thing out. And it says, how much do your parents make? There's one question, how much do your parents have in their 401ks? If anyone in this room lets your kid within 100 miles of that form, you're nuts. You should fill it out. Don't let your kid near that thing. So we got this family getting ready to go to, let's say, San Francisco State. They make $65,000, have $100,000 in the bank. They send in the form, and it turns out that their EFC, calculated by the federal formula, comes out to be $10,000. Well, this place costs $16,000. So under the financial aid formula, the college would expect the family to pay $10,000, and then the college would come up with a financial aid package of $6,000. Now, what most people don't understand, and it's really important that you understand it, is this. Once the family contribution is calculated for any given year, it remains the same regardless of the cost of college. So if that same kid wanted to go to a college costing $40,000, it would work like this. They would be expected to pay $10,000. The difference would be that this family is eligible for $30,000 in need-based financial aid. And so on into the Ivy League schools or Stanford, they'd be expected to pay about $10,000, but the family would be eligible for $45,000 in need-based financial aid. Now think about this for a second. Suppose you knew that number when your student was a freshman at Los Altos High School or Mountain View High School, and you said, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but I think I can do that. Might that not influence the choice of colleges? And might not the choice of colleges early on influence the quality of the program your student is taking? So it's really important that you understand and you have a resource where you can find out or make an estimate of what the expected family contribution is. Everybody understand that? Okay. Let me tell you where the formula comes from. Actually, there's about 70 factors in the formula. I don't know how these guys at the Department of Education come up with this stuff. It doesn't make any sense. It's an arcane formula, but it's my job to tell you how it works. There are about major features to it, but the 4 that are most important for us in this room are these. They go after parents' adjusted gross income. The adjusted gross income is the bottom line on the front page of your 1040 before you get clever. It's before deductions. And the formula will want anything from nothing if you have a very low income, all the way up to 25% if you're looking at a six-figure income. So if you're making $100,000, you can figure that one out really easily. You're going to be expected to pay about $25,000 based on that factor alone. If you have an income of adjusted gross income of $70,000, it'll be around maybe 12 to 14% of that. At $80,000, maybe 16 or 17%. It varies a little bit depending on your assets, but something like that. It's a kind of a progressive formula. Then take a look at parent assets, and they don't count any retirement assets. They just count assets on the FAFSA, not including the equity in your house. And whatever you put down for your assets on the form, the formula is going to want to get about 5.64% of that number. So if you said you have $100,000 worth of assets, you can pretty well predict that's going to raise the family contribution by $5,640. It's pretty easy to figure out. Then take a look at dependent students' income. And the formula is going to allow the student to earn about $6,000, but for every dollar over that number, the student is going to be expected to pay 50 cents of that. So if a student reports that he has a income of $10,000, you know in advance it's going to raise the family contribution by $2,000. So you can give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. And then it takes a look at dependent students' assets, and they want anywhere between 20 and 25% of the dependent student's assets. So it's a good idea not to report any assets in your student's name.